What's happening, everyone? And welcome to El Chile Boxing Talk. Got the homies with me, George with Off the Ropes Boxing and MMA, and the homie, Nopal Buxianos. We're here and we got a loaded episode, and I want to thank you all for joining us, man. We got a shit ton of predictions. But first, we're going to go over a little bit of recap. It's been a while since we've been on, so we want to talk about Conner Benn versus Eubank being called off. We also want to talk about Fundura. How far can he go at 154? We want to talk about it, but first I want to give a shout out to JC, who's in the house, and Rum PMC, who is here. Welcome, fellas. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing good. It's fight week.
Hell yeah. And Nopal, how's things with you, man?
Things are pretty good, man. Yeah, looking forward to these fights. Last week wasn't as good as it was supposed to be, but this week should be pretty good.
You're right. There wasn't much going on over the weekend, and I'll tell you what, I, for one, was actually really looking forward to the Ben versus Eubank fight, which we all know was called off, okay? And it was called off because Conner Benn popped dirty, okay? He was taking some type of female fertility drug that increased his testosterone or something like that. You know, if you want like a professional analysis, I'm sure you can find it everywhere, right? So he got popped, and the fight was subsequently called off. And I want to talk about it with you guys. What are your thoughts on Conner Benn being called a dirty fighter, right? There's also some reports that it was known ahead of time that Conner Benn was a dirty fighter. Chris Algieri said that he had heard rumors that Conner Benn was a dirty fighter, went through with the fight anyways, but now he's popped, and they wanted this fight to continue anyways. Both parties knew about it, and they wanted the fight to continue. I want to know what you guys think about what Conner Benn did. George, what do you think about all this?
It's very unfortunate, man. It sucks because just like you just said, you were looking forward to this fight. I was looking forward to this fight. It was, even though we're not from the UK, we're big boxing fans, so we understand the rivalry. The fathers are having the rivalry. Now these guys are had their rivalry, so there was a good backstory behind it. So if you're a hardcore boxing fan, like you tuned in, you were excited to say, hey, you know what, let's see what these guys could do, even though it was a catch weight. I know Eubanks, his father didn't want him to go through with the fight because he didn't want him to drop. I think it was like 3 pounds or whatever. He thought it was dangerous, but it's unfortunate. And like you said, Chris Algieri was coming out, and Chris Algieri, he's really well known and real versed in being fit and trained. I think he actually did train Daniel Jacobs for the Canelo fight, so he understands the conditioning and what it takes. He says, it's BS. He felt like he was cheated. So did Van Horn or Van Haren. I think that was the guy's name that also fought Conner Benn. So there's been a couple guys coming out that felt cheated. I mean, it's shit. I mean, the drug that he took, you hear a lot of the times that, I mean, I know guys in the gym. I know guys that used to play professional, semi-pro baseball, minor league baseball, even going from high school and trying to get that recognition into the minor leagues, or even get a college scholarship. These guys would take these, steroids, whatever, testosterone, and in order for them to mask it, like they would have to take these estrogen blockers, or try to balance out the testosterone. There was even a story that came out with Mayweather back in the time, back when he fought Victor Ortiz, and I think maybe Andre Berto, I don't know, but the Victor Ortiz one, there was, his testosterone levels were very, very low, which do not look right for a professional athlete as Floyd Mayweather. The video's out there. So this is kind of the same thing with Conner Benn. Is he's trying to mask something, and it's unfortunate because you would want these guys to be on a level playing field. Eubanks wanted the fights to go on. And I get it. He just said, you know what, and he put in the hard work, and you've seen him. He even went through with Friday, showing that he still made weight, that he was on point, even though he was putting out these videos of him eating, and people were wondering, losing their minds, like, holy shit, is he going to make the weight? Is he going to be able to drop this weight? And he did. He showed it. You can see in the pictures just the anger in his face, that he was upset that this fight didn't go through, because he really wanted this fight. I was hoping for Conner Benn to win, but after this, I was like, man, it sucks, because he was one of the faces that would have been at that division at 147. So with this, I mean, what else is there to do? I mean, you said it. We've heard it. This isn't the first time. And then with Eddie Hearn, I mean, I know he's trying to save face. I know and then the event of it obviously was a big event, so there was a lot of money that was to be made. Now he's got to refund everybody, tickets. I don't know if they do hotels and flights. I don't know if they do those other things, but I know for sure they that he even made a statement that they were looking to reinstate these people that bought tickets. It's an unfortunate thing, and it sucks. I love boxing, but this won't be the last time we'll hear some crazy stuff like this happen.
You're right, man. I think we're a little bit overdue. Great stuff, George. Nopal, did you know that Conner Benn was on the juice, man? Like, did you have any suspicion? What are your thoughts? Well, who knows what Nopal's up to right now? I'll tell you what I think about this whole situation. George, I agree with a lot of what you said, brother. I did want this fight to go on in a way, right? And here's a little tweet from Calix, our homie, and I was thinking this too, and he said it, and I'm like, you know what? This is damn right. He said, I witnessed some top-ranked prospects beat the living daylights out of some human bait dogs last month. So bad of mismatches that the odds weren't even posted. This happens every weekend and seems bad for fighter safety. But y'all don't care about those fighters. My bad. And I kind of resonate with that a little bit. Okay, one, like, I have mixed feelings about if the fight should have continued on, right? Like, if the fight should have been made. Both camps agreed to it, right? So if both camps agreed to it, I'm inclined to say, like, fuck it, maybe move forward. But I wouldn't feel that way if it was like Crawford versus Spence and all of a sudden Spence popped dirty. I wouldn't be like, oh, this fight needs to continue anyway. So it was kind of like a selfish thing. I just really wanted to see that fight. And I was thinking anyways that, well, Conner Benn, he's not very big, right? I mean, everybody was thinking that Eubank would beat him anyways. And then, I understand now that it would have been like a lose-lose situation. Like, nobody would have won. Everybody would have made the money, right? But who knows? Maybe Eubank would have looked like the good guy coming into the fight now, and then he would have been the good guy winning, even though he's the bigger guy. And he did meet his obligations coming in the weight that he was supposed to, and rehydrating properly like he was supposed to. But yeah, man, another thing that I thought was really interesting is Algieri said that he had heard rumors just like you said. And it's interesting to me that he was known as a dirty fighter, right? I've seen some people come out now and say, oh, like we kind of knew it the whole time, or I could tell that guy was juicing. But, sometimes I feel like, I don't know. I feel like things are easy to say like after the fact. You know what I mean? But what I'd like to do is give a very special welcome to the hired gun of Al Chile, one of the originals. Not that it matters. We're not like that here. We're not like first tier, second tier. But he did help us start out the show, man. I want to give a warm welcome to Run PMC, who's in the house. How you doing, Run?
What's going on? How's everyone doing?
What's up, we're doing good, just in time because, I'll tell you what, everybody, Run PMC, he knows his stuff compared to us as far as like drugs go and all that shit. He knows a whole lot of stuff. Dude, we were just talking about how Conner Benn popped dirty. And, we just wanted to know your overall thoughts on it. What do you think?
No, I thought it was definitely interesting. Like, it's sort of hard for me to pass judgment, like prejudgment on anyone, like saying if they're like under suspicion of being on performance answers or whatever, because it's so hard to tell. Like, you can see some guys in baseball that you would never think that test positive for steroids. That really surprising. You see other guys that you would for sure think that haven't test positive. So, I mean, I think they did the right thing by stopping the fight. I was sort of disappointed by not getting to watch the fight as a fan, but I think it would set a bad precedent like they have in past times, like with Eric Morales when he fought Danny Garcia the second time, being able to proceed with the fight even though he tests positive. But what I found definitely that wasn't really good to see was that Eddie Hearn claimed to have known about the positive test for X amount of weeks before and just tried to go ahead with it. And then also after the fight was canceled, he was saying that he was the one that him and Matchroom were the ones that actually stopped the fight. But at the same time, like a few days or like the day before, he was saying that the British Boxing Board of Control was up to them. So it's sort of weird to see because Eddie Hearn sort of speaks out of both sides of his mouth. So I'd like to still see the fight, but we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, dude, Eddie Hearn's been taking some serious heat, right? It was interesting seeing him try to save the event in real time. He did like 3 different interviews on the same day. On top of that, a lot of people have captured some of his quotes about what he had to say in real time when he was trying to save the fight, making it seem like, well, the British Board of Boxing Control, we don't really acknowledge VADA or some shit like that, right? He was trying to save it, and sounds like all parties knew about it. It sounds like this was a leak, and the fight would have gone forward had things kept quiet. Somebody leaked it. It was probably ultimately for the best, but they lost out on a lot of money. Nopal, what do you think about Eddie Hearn taking the heat, trying to save this event? And people are calling him a hypocrite now. What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, I always kind of looked at Eddie Hearn as the guy that rushes in there to make other promoters look bad, So, he's kind of taking this good image of this promoter that does everything right, and he's honest and stuff like that. But we got to remember, he's done this before. I don't know if you guys remember, but Chavez Jr. Didn't take a drug test once. They went to go drug test his ass, and he must have been on the juice. So I guess he didn't even come out of the bathroom or anything. So they suspended him in that state where he was supposed to have that fight. And what does Eddie Hearn do? He moves the fight somewhere else. So he's, in the very least, he's complicit with that type of bad shit, And he's criticized other promoters before about the steroid thing, allowing it to happen, shit like that. So he's looking really bad right now, and it sucks because, he's a well-liked dude, and this is the difference that you see. You got other promoters that they don't have that image, and people don't like them. Like Oscar De La Hoya, he gets a bad rap, but I don't think he's ever been wrapped up in this many controversies like that when doing with the business of boxing. Oscar has other outside type of controversies, but not like this, bro, where he knowingly wants to let fighters who juice go ahead and fight. You know what I mean? I think he's looking really bad right now and shady.
That's true. One of my main thoughts is that, Eddie Hearn is one of the only promoters who actually goes out and does multiple interviews with multiple outlets almost on a daily basis. The guy's very accessible, and I've always appreciated that about Eddie Hearn. I've said that for a while. Like, he'll tell you, like, what's going on, up to date. And sure, of course he hides things, hides certain negotiations, but it's so nice to have that type of transparency where we can go, hey, what's going on with that Fury Joshua fight? Is it really off? Or like, what's up with this? What's up with that? We don't get any of that kind of stuff from an Oscar. Like, he wouldn't even have that much to say in general. Like, the guy just kind of shows up, talks a little bit at the fights, maybe at a press conference. The guy doesn't do all that much. Bob Arum's a dinosaur, and we don't hear anything from the PBC. And it's not lost on me that at the end of the day, yes, Eddie Hearn, he's a promoter. I'm not sure who he answers to. I'm sure he answers to some people. There was an idea to save this fight, and I'm wondering too, like, just like how masked is all this in general. Like, I like the exposure that Eddie Hearn gives us, but all this kind of reveals to us, in my opinion, that yeah, Conner Benn was a dirty fighter ahead of time. These testing agencies aren't 100% accurate. I mean, if he was already cheating, then how many times has he gotten away with this, right? How many times do other fighters get away with this? Like, I understand it's nice to have it in place, but it's not that be all end all. Just because you passed the testing doesn't mean you weren't juicing. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that means that there shouldn't be testing, right? But to me, I'm just saying there's no real clear answer. I think that PEDs are always going to be a thing in boxing.
Yeah, that's why it's drug tested, not drug free.
Right. They passed the drug testing. Dude, that's a good point, Run. And then I want to give a shout out to the Shoe Shine, who's in the house. He says he's listening in from work, and he says he cares about the mismatches and padding records too. And that's in reference. And I want to know if you guys have any thoughts about the tweet that Calix posted earlier of that one guy who just blew out that bozo nobody, right? But juicing results in unreal strength, making it more deadly. Do you guys have any thoughts on that as well? Because, that's a good point. Everybody's getting really concerned about, fighters' lives, and it is that, fighters always risk their lives. But dude, you see people get blown out. You see like tin cans just get wrecked, and you never hear from them again. And dude, like knocked out, unconscious, like that's deadly. I mean, deadly's deadly, and that to me, I mean, we're talking about blunt force trauma, knocking out somebody, right? I mean, it can get real brutal. You know what I mean? So, what do you think about like the double standards, if there are any? Any thoughts on that before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point. Obviously, it's a very good point. Like either way, fighter safety is the main point. That's why you have your refs. We get, like, for us, sometimes we get caught in the moment where, like, just like, like, Eubanks wanted the fight to happen. I think a majority of us were like, yeah, let the fight happen. But I think once we sat back and really unfolded what was really going on, we're like, no, like, let's take a couple steps back and realize, what, these guys are human at the end of the day, even though they're punching each other in the face and entertaining us, and that's what they love to do. Because, I mean, look at Eubanks said, let the fight happen, but he finally calmed down too. I think like a couple of days later, he finally had to say what he had to say about it and tweeted. So it kind of, like you said, it's just kind of like a double-edged sword. You have guys that are thrown in there. I'm pretty sure they get paid a nice little, a nice check to go in there to help these guys pad their records. But I think for me, this might take the upper hand as far as like the PEDs out of the guys that are helping to pad their records and the guys that are using the PEDs, and it would suck if these guys that are padding their records are on PEDs. So then it's like, what's the point? But I would say the PEDs things is a lot more dangerous because, with PEDs, it's like your endurance, your strength. You don't get tired and you're in there for every minute of 12 rounds, just blasting this guy out if he makes it to even 5 rounds. But I think that's pretty much my point. I think if I had my way, I think I would definitely, I think we would agree that the padded record thing was probably a little bit more on the safer side than someone that's on PEDs.
Good stuff. Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Nando Yamas, who's in the house. JC also says here that Eddie Hearn, fast talking Eddie, was just trying to save the bag, man, which I get. I want to give a shout out to Puro Sur Central, who's in the house. Well run. I don't know how much time we got you for, man, but I'd love to prioritize the topics for you, man, so you can touch on whatever you like, man. We were going to get into the chick fights. We're going to get into Kambosos versus Haney, or Plant versus Wilder, or excuse me, Plant versus Dirrell, Wilder, Helenius. Also, we were going to check out how far we think Fundura can go at 154. Is there anything that you would like to touch on, man? You let us know.
No, I'm down for going with whatever your guys' normal flow was.
All right. Well, the normal flow, what I'd like to do is let's start with the chicks first because, well, this is probably the second time in El Chile history that we've talked about the female fights, and this is a big week, right? So I want to talk about it, man. Let's talk about Shields versus Marshall and Mayer versus Bumgarner. Let's get some predictions out of the way. Let's start with I don't even know who follows women's boxing the most. I think George, you recommended this topic, so why don't we start with you, homie? Tell us what you think about these fights and who do you have winning.
All right, cool, thank you. I'll start with the Mayer and Bumgarner because I think they're both main events, right? Obviously, but they're being at least in my eyes, they're both main events. So I think I'll start with that one first, the Mayer and Bumgarner. This one's a really good one because I think Bumgarner's a great counterpuncher. She's quick. She could hit hard. But I think Mayer has a little bit more in her arsenal. Like, she can box. She could bang. She's gonna make it, and she could take a shot. I mean, one of her last fights, I think nobody wanted to fight. I think it was Yamaguchi or I can't remember her name, was something like that. But that was like a brawl for 12 rounds or 10 rounds. So I think, to me, in my opinion, I think she has a little bit more in the toolbox for when it comes to these two. Like, not to say that Baumgartner can offset her or pick her apart from the outside, but I just think that Mayer, she comes forward, she's nonstop. I mean, she has great endurance. I don't think Baumgartner's ever faced anybody with this kind of I'm going to say reckless, but with this kind of smart aggression that Mayer brings. So I think like the first couple of rounds will be a the filling out process, and I think Mayer will try to step on the gas a little bit. I think she definitely will overwhelm Baumgartner a little bit, and I'm slightly favoring Mayer in this one, which will still be a good fight. Savannah Marshalls and Clarissa Shields. I think this one is a very good one. Of course, Savannah Marshall beating Clarissa Shields in the amateurs. The only woman to beat Shields, I think. And I don't know how many fights, but this one's a really tough one for me to pick because, I mean, we've seen all the stuff in Twitter, the things that Clarissa Shields is saying, and sometimes when people have opinion, or they say certain things we tend to kind of get turned off by it. And as of lately, just some of the things that Clarissa Shields has been saying, just kind of puts me off, and I'm just not. It just puts me more in, behind Savannah Marshall. Savannah Marshall being, I guess a sport, and just letting the shit talk come to her, and she's really not going back and forth. And with this one, it's a tough one for me to pick. I know a couple months back when both girls had won their fights, I picked Savannah Marshall. I think I said that Savannah Marshall has what it takes to stop Clarissa Shields, and we've seen Clarissa Shields get dropped before her. I think this will probably be the same thing. I think that Clarissa Shields will do pretty good, but I think Savannah Marshall is going to come in, a little stronger, and I'm gonna favor Marshall in this one. And both fights are really, really good. Slightly favoring again Meyer, and same thing with Marshall. I can see Marshall maybe getting like a late stoppage, but it's female boxing, it's women boxing. Clarissa Shields can easily outbox her and pick her apart from the outside if she doesn't get reckless or careless. But I really don't see Marshall getting flustered or impatient with Clarissa Shields boxing from the outside. So I'm picking Marshall in this one as well.
Excellent stuff. Great breakdown. Thank you so much, George. And let's see. And Nope, I know we've talked about female fighters, but usually we're talking about how good they look. Do you have any predictions on this?
Not really. I'll just tell you who I want to win. I want Savannah to win, just because, just like George said, Clarissa Shields has been talking some fucked up shit, man. Really, really messed up shit. And I hope she gets her ass beat, just so she'll be a little more humble. You know what I mean? But and then with the other two, I think Bumgarner, she's really skilled, so and she's really cute, so hopefully she wins. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I hate to see a beautiful girl like that get upset with a loss.
Hey,
the
female girl, the females aren't the only ones that are allowed to pick a fight like that. Oh, he's cute. He's gonna win.
That's true, man. You watch Women's Crushing on Wednesdays. You hear them hooting and hollering sometimes, man. Sometimes I want to throw water on them when I hear them talking.
Yeah.
Shit. Run, PMC. What do you think about these fights, man?
I mean, I'm excited for this one. Obviously, it had to be delayed with the passing of the Queen, but I'm glad nothing. I mean, who knows? I mean, fingers crossed nothing weird happens, because anything can happen even up until they're in the ring. But I'm thinking, let's say for what sort of build is the undercard. I think I'd like to see Bumgarner win I'd just like to see her win, and then but I'm leaning Mayer, just because I've just got to see more of her, and like I said, more diversity in the skill set, I think. And then I also think she is billed as the A side heavily, so I think she'll get the benefit of the doubt. Like when she fought Hamadouche, I thought that fight was closer than I believe. I think the scorecards were a little wider than I thought that fight should be, and I think she got the benefit of the doubt on that one. For Shields, Marshall, I'm not privy to what Shields said. So what did Shields say recently?
Recently I was about to fucking go back and talk about she was able to, she could beat Triple G, she could beat up men. She's popping off, you know what I mean? Like I don't like her personality in general, but that's just me. I mean, I really don't know too much of her quotes, but I find what she has to say generally very distasteful.
Right.
Maybe that's by design, so I don't know about all that. I just know that I personally don't like her that much, but that's just a preference. That's all right. And to be fair, I don't even really know who Savannah Marshall is.
Right.
But go ahead, Ron. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've only got to see like her most recent fights, that being for Savannah Marshall. But I think I'm favoring Shields. It's just my gut feeling. I think it will be probably maybe a sloppier fight where it's a lot of just. It seems like sometimes when Shields fights, she has obviously some athleticism, but sometimes she's not always connecting with her shots. It looks some amateurish, not as much as she got with John David Jackson, but I think it might resort to that. And then especially like when you see the high-level fights, men and women, sometimes there isn't as much action as you'd like to see, or as you would expect to see. It becomes more of like a jousting match, especially at the like upper levels. But I don't know, with the 2-minute rounds, you might see someone throw caution to the wind late. But I think I'm leaning Shields, and then maybe to possibly take over more in the latter 5 rounds.
Right,
So
very good
I would
run.
say
So
Mayer decision, and then Clarissa Shields decision as well.
excellent. Thank you so much. And what you had to say is reflected by the odds. You kind of made it sound like Shields, Marshall would be kind of close, but nearly even. And that's what the odds reflect, that you would lose money. It's not even money on either one of them, but Shields is the slight favorite, where Bumgarner is a huge underdog, 3-1. Mayer, you have to bet $3 to win $1, right? So they're telling you that Mayer's going to win this fight. Any final thoughts on the females before we move on, man? No, I didn't think so. Well, now I don't know. Yamas here has something to say. He says Mayer will out hustle Baumgartner. Marshall will push Shields to the brink, nearly a KO, but Shields will survive to lose by decision. Well, we'll see. I probably will be watching it because you know what? When a lot of people start buzzing for a fight, it does have a positive effect, and it's making me want to watch both these fights, right? So I want to salute everybody who's picked up the female boxing because, it really does help me kind of get into certain fights. So I will be watching this with some enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But
And I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, brother. No, go ahead.
No, I was waiting. I was trying to time you, but you kept going.
Sorry, man. Am I going on? Go ahead.
N-
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say it is an all women's card too. So
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Well, hopefully when you guys text me when the main events start for this one, you let me know. Team Batman Boxing. What's up, brother? And he says, hopefully Marshall stops Shields. All right. And what I would like to do is I would like to backtrack just a little bit because what I want to discuss with you fellas next is something else that happened over the weekend. So I want to backtrack before we go to some more predictions later on. I wanted to talk about Sebastian Fundura, right? A lot of people have some very strong opinions about the performance that he had on Saturday against Ocampo. Some people are saying that he's going to get knocked out. Some people are saying that this dude needs a new trainer because he doesn't know how to fight from a distance. Some people are trying to suppress the buzz for him. I didn't even really know there was a buzz for him. Like, I mean, this is the second time we brought him up. I haven't heard like any type of like a Fundura like fan base like be around and be vocal, in my opinion. But there's a lot of strong opinions about this dude. He's kind of polarizing. I want to know how far you guys think he can go. George, let's start with you, man. I know you saw the fight. Like, what are your thoughts on Fundura's skill set overall compared to his dynamic dimensions, right? And then also, how far do you think he can go?
Yeah. I mean, he sticks out. I mean, obviously his height. I think they said he's 6'6". I think like an 83-inch reach. So at that weight at 154 is pretty crazy. I think you don't really see heavyweights with that height and reach. But they said Ocampo actually typically has a longer reach for that division. But when you got Sebastian Fundura, he's gonna outreach you or he's gonna have more reach than you. But as far as like the fight, we saw what he did against Lubin. And I've seen a couple of his previous fights. And it's kind of it's a similar thing. And in this one, he tried, like you said, he tried to jab. I mean, I saw the jab, but there was really no, he didn't try to mix up the speed with his jab. It was pretty much kind of like the same thing, just kind of just pushing it out there. I would have loved to seen him try to feint a little bit more, use his footwork. He tried to use his reach. And he could have also used not just a jab, but also like a straight left, try to keep him from the outside a little bit better. I think in his mind, he thought when he said he was going to box from the outside was just pretty much just stick and use a jab out there. So I think I would have liked to seen more, but when you are that kind of fighter, kind of similar to Paul Williams, like Paul Williams was a long fighter. You would have thought he would use his reach. And he did use his reach in moments, but he just loved the fight on the inside. And that's what Fundura did is, he went away from sticking out kind of a lazy jab. And of course, Ocampo doing some good work as well. Ocampo showing, he's actually a tough competitor. He did pretty well against Earl Spence in his fight. And I think that's just pretty much it. It's just you had a tough opponent like Ocampo. And then you also have Fundura. He does pack some kind of a punch, but I think as far as longevity, man, I don't think we'll see him. I just don't think we'll see him going too far. I mean, there's some guys in that top division that he can give trouble to, or he would actually win. I think I would favor him definitely over Tony Harrison, even though Harrison would be a good fight. And any of these guys in that division, you know, from Charlo, to Liam Smith, you had Tim Zhu, Castano. Those are some of the guys that we know pretty well in that division at 154. But I think as far as Charlo, I think they should pump the brakes a little bit on it. I mean, I think of course the size would give Charlo a little trouble, but I think with Fundora getting hit a little too much, that would probably be. And then what we just seen what Charlo did against Castano, like he went an extra gear. He dug deep in a fight that was a close fight in the beginning, and he turned it around somehow. And I could see him doing the same thing here in the Fundora, you know, early Fundora, you know, having some success, but Charlo being the more experienced fighter, he's been there, he's been on the stage at this level. He would definitely give Fundora problems, but I think Fundora's growing, and I don't think he has very much time at 154. So, I mean, I think once he hits like his prime and hits his full grown body, he probably would be a full 168-pound fighter. So there's, you know, I would like to see him. Yeah, a new trainer, you know, just thinking of it. Yeah, a new trainer definitely would be something different. We would like to see him do. Maybe take a little more time off. In between the next fight, you work on some things, especially some footwork, because obviously that inside stuff won't go very long. And it's not like him being on the inside. You know, he's doing good defense. He is getting hit a lot, and I mean, come on, you're 6'6" at a 154-pound division where all you got to hit there is a body, and Ocampo had some pretty good success going to the body against Fundora. I mean, I like him. He's fan, you know, he's good to watch. It's entertaining, but as far as this, you know, him having longevity, I think, you know, he would have to just definitely work on some things, especially on that outside. You know, mix up the jab speed. Jab to the body would be good too. You know, he could offset him with some of those jabs to the body. And I mean, I like the kid. He's good to watch.
I had a good time watching him too. Great stuff, George. I want to give a shout out to Maestro Boxing from Mano a Mano is here. Our brother, thanks for joining us, man. Hope you're enjoying your lunch. And as far as the trainer switch goes, Maestro is possibly calling for it, but if it does happen, he says Joe Goosen or Ismael Sales would be a good match. Run PMC, how far do you think Fundura can go, and would you recommend a trainer switch?
Sorry about that. I don't know if you heard the car.
I did, man. Somebody's taking off, man.
No, it's I mean, I think he can go all the way in the sense of he can win the title at 154 once Jermell vacates. But I don't know. I mean, what I always think about when I see guys like this is like when you're so heavily reliant on your chin, and that's like that and your punch volume is your go-to. Eventually, it's going to break, and we're already seeing that it's already breaking for Fundora. Like when you think of guys in recent years with like granite chins, like Chavez Jr., Brandon Rios, like guys that like say, "Oh, I have a chin, I can walk through anything." Eventually, it breaks, and you didn't see those guys get dropped as early as in their career as Fundora is, and he's already getting dropped. And so, I mean, a trainer switch could be good, but I don't know. He seems pretty. I mean, you'll never know because he's pretty young, but he's pretty dyed in the wool regarding his style. I don't know what else he would add. I don't know if he has the discipline to be able to sort of box from the outside and sort of turn it up later in fights. We saw it. He seemed like he tried to do that early on, but then he just by the third round he was back to his old style. So I don't know. I think he can win the title once Jermell moves up, but like you said, I don't know how long he'll be there. And like I agree that he'll be probably at 168 topped out, but who knows? I think he better at least just be more defensively responsible because Ocampo, I mean, to be honest, the only fight I've ever seen him fight was against Errol Spence. We didn't really get that much to see in that fight, but he was just throwing like wild punches and landing. And Fundura, outside of just being the younger, fresher fighter, really didn't have many answers, in my opinion. Like to counteract that, he was just throwing blow for blow, and he wasn't the one that tired out first. So I don't know. I mean, I think he can win the title at 154. I think that's probably the route they're going to take. Probably like the rumors have been, Jamal's moving up, so they'll just sort of do that shift. But I don't know. Like, what happens if, say, the Crawford fight falls through or it doesn't happen? Errol Spence moves up, fights Fundura. I think that might be over for him. Over for Fundura, that is. So it's interesting, but I think he can win a title. Will he last that long in boxing? Probably not, because I just think of him as a taller Omar Figueroa without a switch hitting style, and I don't know. It's just they sort of have that like pawing style. He's not as wild, but then again, he's not the most disciplined either. So it remains to be seen. But I think he can win the title.
Good stuff. And so you said Fundura's a little bit dyed in the wool, and based on what you said afterwards, and you me kind of putting it in my head, that means like a little set in his ways. Is that what you mean?
No, yes, definitely.
I thought so. I don't know if I've heard that. Maybe I have heard it because then familiar like dyed in the wool. I like that one. Excellent stuff. Run PMC, man. It's always good to hear your opinion, and I talked to that guy on the phone because sometimes I just got to talk some boxing, man, and it's good to talk to him. The guy knows his stuff. No, Paul. Okay, what do you think about Fundura, man? Like I said, some people said that there's some kind of like I don't know. I heard a lot of the Spence fans being like, "Where are all the Fundura fans at now?" I'm like, well, he didn't really have that many fans to begin with, but some people are thinking this guy couldn't even put Ocampo away, right? So Spence did it in 1 round. I mean, what do you think about that, Nopal? Does he need a new trainer? What are your thoughts? Well, this is the second time I've called on Nopal and he don't answer me, man. It makes me sad. That's okay. That's okay. He's busy and I'm happy that he's here. But I'll tell you what I think. I think that he's a little set in his ways. As far as his inside fighting, I've heard that be complimented a few times. I think he's a decent inside fighter, and I've talked about how I think inside fighting is a little bit of a lost art. And I think he's decent, right, at what he does. But, I'll tell you this, like, I think he's bound to get knocked out sooner or later. I do think that he should learn how to fight using his length. Now, I understand, like, some fighters just aren't like that. But, I mean, any fighter should know how to properly fight from an outside range, even if you're good at the mid-range, even if you're good at the inside. Like, most complete fighters know how to fight on the outside, okay? He should learn how to fight on the inside. Is he really good on the inside? Like, I mean, I think right now it's working, but, I think he's going to hit a wall. I got to tell you, George, Crawford versus Fundura, I think that's an interesting one. I don't know who I'd favor in that one. Off the top of your head, say Crawford wanted to move up and fight Fundura. Who would you? I just want to know who you'd pick.
You got to go with the more experienced guy. I mean, Crawford's fought in taller fighters, and I think he. I mean, yeah, Fundura is he's an issue for anybody early, but I just think with somebody with an experience like an experienced fighter like Crawford, I think it'd just be too much for him. I think he'll have success early. We've seen what Porter had done to Crawford. He had very good success early on, but I think it just comes with the experience at the end of the day, and I think Crawford has that experience.
Dang. And Run, what do you think, man? Because you mentioned him.
Well, Crawford versus Fundura?
Yeah.
I think Crawford all day. I think Crawford knocks him out probably to the body.
Yeah, I could possibly see that too, because I don't know, man, I feel like Fundura's a little easy to find, and I do think he can last a little bit because everybody talks about what a big bad division 154 is, and I think it's a little top heavy. Like I think after like Charlo and Castano, like if the 147 pounders don't move up, like I don't know, I see those guys as a bunch of kind of like decent. Glad that they fight each other, but a little bit kind of like those recycled fighters. I do think he could possibly beat Zoo, possibly.
Yeah.
But that remains to be seen. Nopal, you got any thoughts on this, homie? All right. Well, I can tell you for the record, I don't think Nopal thinks very much of Fundura. So let's move on to the next subject. What I want to talk about, fellas, are some more fights that are coming up this weekend. I want to talk about Haney versus Kambosos. It's happening, man. The rematch. And you know what? We got it fairly quickly, right? And that makes me pretty happy because I didn't want to wait around forever. I want to see what happens next. But there's a chance for Kambosos to reclaim his undisputed crown. This is for all the marbles at lightweight in Melbourne, Australia. George, who do you have winning this fight?
I'll say, Haney's gonna win this one again. I do like what I'm seeing out of Kambosos this time around. And not just that, but I saw a tweet that this fight wasn't really getting like the recognition or the promotion that it did the first time around. So we're not seeing, Kambosos using the same things that he did last fight. He's the warrior or Spartan and talking shit and hyping himself up. And you should. He beat Teofimo Lopez, and that just shows the confidence. But I'm still picking Haney in this one. I don't know what Kambosos can do different. I know he complained about the holding. I don't know even if the holding um, would have mattered or made a difference, or if it would have gave him a more of a chance to win the first fight. Um, it is kind of Haney's style. He likes to hit, kind of hold you a little bit, kind of get on the inside, do a little dirty inside fighting. But I don't think it's going to matter even in the rematch. I think Kambosos might win in one more round than he did in the last fight, but it's Haney. Haney's the guy at 135. And the fight we all want to see next, against him and Loma. Loma said he wants the winner of these two. It's gonna be a good fight. It's gonna be interesting. But I'm siding with Will Haney on this one.
So speaking of like the warrior spirit, do you think Kambosos is going to be able to crash the pocket and do what he needs to do and take risks to win this fight?
I mean, he's gonna have to. He's gonna have to create something. He's gonna have to take chances and risks, and he's gonna get hit on the inside. And I think maybe like mid to late rounds, there was a moment where I'm like, Haney might actually drop Kambosos. Maybe not stop him, but like Kambosos got hurt. So yeah, Kambosos is gonna have to definitely crash the pocket, like you said. If not, it's gonna be another easy win for Devin. But either way, Devin's gonna win this one.
All right, thank you very much. And Puro Sur here says that he thinks Kambosos will drop Devin with a body shot in the 10th, so he has a chance. All right, a knockdown prediction. I like to hear it. And Shoeshine agrees that he better start hot. That's what I think, man. I think he's got to get to it right away. And Nando here says that Haney by decision till the day he dies. Run, PMC, man. What do you think about this fight? I want you all to know that the odds are much wider this time around. Kambosos was a slight underdog in their first fight, but now the odds have gotten way wider. Haney's almost a 10-1 favorite. You could get more than $5 on your dollar if you bet on Kambosos, a 5-1 underdog. These are some huge odds for a title fight. Run, what do you think about this fight? Who do you have winning?
I have Haney winning, unanimous decision, like super wide, worse than the first one. I just don't think. I think Kambosos just in this fight with Teofimo was just everything came for it, or like everything came together for that fight. Is that he was super hungry. Teofimo was distracted. Um, we could talk about if Teofimo, if he did or did not have the stuff wrong with his chest. I mean, you just have to take it for what it is. I guess what the boxers say, because other boxers say they tore certain muscles or got certain surgeries done and bathed in the salt water. We accept that, but can't accept other things when they're in the hospital. But I think it'll just be Haney easy, and I would love to see the Haney Loma fight. I mean, I don't know if I really don't know how I'd pick that fight right now, because we've never really seen Devin Haney tested in that way. We've seen Loma test that way, but we haven't seen what Devin Haney does when he gets in there with like really a world class fighter. So I'm more looking forward to that. So I'm glad it happened really quickly. This is how rematch clauses are supposed to be executed. You just have the fight. It might be not as much promotion, and then it's over. And it's hopefully the winner, or the first winner is also the winner, so you can just proceed. Unless it was like a controversial ending in the first fight. So I'm looking forward to whatever happens next for Haney.
Right, get it over with fast, man.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody really wanted this fight. One last question, Run. Because we talk about when fighters have to make weight. Do you have any concern about Haney needing to make 135 again? Like, I kind of privately wonder sometimes if he would have even stayed at 135 if it wasn't for this particular rematch clause. Any concern there at all?
I don't. I think he'll make it, but I think he's going to sort of floating because he gets pretty heavy in between fights, and like I know fighters like to say, "Oh, I'm right within weight." I think we talked about this on the phone. They're saying like we're right at weight, yet they're pounding Gatorade, Pedialyte right after they get off the scale. Yet they look, their faces all sunken in, and like all those types of things. But they're saying, "Oh, I walk around at this weight." It's like, oh, that's not always true. So I think because I think Haney, like I don't know if they have unofficial weights, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him at 150 on fight night, which is big for a 135 guy. So yeah, so if he moves up and vacates all the titles, and Loma, unless Loma demands, I don't think Loma's in really a position to demand at this point. But I wouldn't mind seeing him fight it, even if it's like at a 137, 138 fight, even if it's for no titles, because titles are great to a point, but it's good to it's good to just get the big names in there no matter what. And I'd take that over. I would take getting the big names in there, even if it isn't for the undisputed or for the titles.
Oh, man, I co-sign all of that. Nopal, what do you think about this fight, brother?
Oh, he might be asleep.
Otra vez, Nopal. You know what? Okay. You know what? Maybe I need to forgive Nopal. You're right. Okay, just so everybody knows, Nopal, he works overnights, so that's why we do it early in the morning because, man, the guy's tired and, we want him to get his sleep. So maybe he's having a little bit of a siesta, Maybe once we started talking about the chicks fighting, he fell asleep. It's very possible. Okay.
he just wanted to rest his eyes and say, you know what? Let me just close my eyes real quick. And he's gonna wake up and everything's gonna be done.
All right.
Haney's big though. I was watching some of the highlights real quick. And Haney in the ring, he looked really big. I was like, holy shit! Like, yeah, I don't think we see him too much longer at 135. He does have a contract though with Top Rank, so I think it's like a 3-fight deal. So here's your 2 fights, and then obviously we're hoping for the Loma. So I would say maybe he has 1 or 2 more fights left at 135. And like Ren just said, even if it's not for a title, it's 2 names, Haney and Loma. And we really want to see, because I think even Loma's small for 140, and Haney's a little bit on the bigger side for 135. So I could see something like that happening.
Yeah. And Nano here says Haney needs to put on the show for once. Bang, bang, bang. I think it's a reference to Jim Lampley. And then he also says that Loma's never won a big fight. He needs the win more than Haney. Damn. Well, yeah, dude, I think Loma does need to prove himself. I would be interested in that fight. A lot of these fights at 135 to, 140 pounds, they all interest me. I got to say that I think Haney is doing a lot of the right things. He wants all the title fights. He's been wanting title fights. Now he's undisputed. He's been calling out the right names. He didn't even necessarily want this fight, but I'm glad that, he didn't try to wiggle out of it. If he made it sound like it was an open question whether he needed to see Kambosos in a rematch. I mean, nobody really wanted this fight, like I mentioned, but now that it's here, I favor Haney to win this fight in an even better fashion. I think that Haney is improving. I think that he's another level above Kambosos, and Kambosos needs to crash the pocket. He needs to take risks. Is he willing to do that? Well, he didn't do it in the first fight when he could have benefited from it. On top of that, too, Haney already knows Kambosos, man. He already knows his rhythm. I thought they had a very good game plan in that first fight, which included holding, which I wasn't too fond of. But, man, Haney could just grab Kambosos as like the bigger, quicker guy and just wait until they break it up, So I think that Haney's going to establish some rhythm. And I can't wait to see Haney fight other fighters at 140 pounds, or even like a Shakur or a Loma at, some kind of catch weight. Like, a lot of fights with Devin Haney excite me. And it seems to me, at least for right now, he's young. It seems like he does want all the smoke. Like, I haven't seen any of his actions say different personally. So I do appreciate that from Haney. Anybody got any final thoughts on this fight before we move on?
I think one last thing is I think Kambosos will definitely lose, because I don't think from what I've only just seen the brief interviews here and there, but it doesn't seem like his head's in it as much, where he's saying like, oh, if I lose, I'll retire. And you hear that thing from boxers, it's like they're already out of it. So I think Haney for sure, because how could you even say that as a boxer? You're at like the quote unquote peak of your career and you're talking about retiring already if you lose. Like, why would that even cross your mind? Or why would you make that public even if it's crossing your mind? Because I don't know. He seems to, even though he quotes the art of war, he doesn't seem to employ it that much.
Great point. He was playing mind games with Teofimo, with Devin Haney in their first fight. But his demeanor is much different. And I don't think it's one of those like tricks. Like, when Tyson Fury fought Wilder in the rematch, he was kind of like, calm, and everybody's like, oh, he's going to mail it in, or he knows he's going to lose. But then he went in and he walked Wilder down. Like, I don't know if it's like that here. Like, I don't even know if he thinks he can walk down Haney. This might be a cash out fight. I'm not sure, man. But I don't hold much hope for Kambosos, and that's all right. Before he beat Teofimo, I never thought it was anything special anyways. So I think everything will happen the way it's supposed to, and that means Haney's going to win. I want to give a shout out to Drew Evo, who's in the house. And then Nando here says that Top Rank should match Shakur versus Haney instead of Loma. Haney could beat Loma and bounce with all the titles. That's an idea. That's quite something. But, dude, I want to move on to the PBC card. We have Caleb Plant making a comeback to fight Anthony Dirrell on the undercard of Wilder versus Helenius, which we'll get into next. And I want to know what you guys think about this particular fight. Plant versus Dirrell. Not a bad undercard fight for a pay-per-view. Some people are thinking this is a mismatch. Some people think Dirrell is going to win. I'd really like to know what you guys have to say about it. George, what are your thoughts, man?
I'm sure this was one of those fights that should have happened maybe before the Canelo fight. I like the story behind it. They got a little bit of bad blood, talking shit to each other. Dirrell saying he's the Plant's the kind of guy you just want to punch in the face. As far as prediction, I'm gonna favor Plant in this one. And not to say that Dirrell can't do anything, but I mean he did get a pretty nasty knockout on the undercard of the Plant and Canelo card. But Plant is a different fighter from the opponent that Dirrell did fight. And it's not a bad co-main event, because I mean typically with the PBC card we'll see obviously Wilder versus Helenius with no decent co-main event. So this is a pretty good co-main event. There is some bad blood, so it does got a good story behind it. I think Plant will box. He'll do some good things in there. Dirrell, I think, is definitely on the back end of his career here. He did have a good win in his last fight, but I'm just going with Plant, man. I think Plant is going to be able to stick it to him from the outside box. I'm sure he took some things away from the Canelo fight, because he out of the 4 titles at that 168, the 160 division, Plant did the best out of any of the 4 guys. So I'm sure he's riding in with some confidence. He did lose, but he stood in there with Canelo for about 11 rounds. So I think this is a pretty decent fight. I'm happy with it. I can't complain. So I got Plant in this one.
By decision?
Oh yeah, by decision.
All right. Nando here says 2 tune-up fights for $75. Come on, man. Hey, it's hard to argue with that. I personally see these 2 fights as tune-ups as well. And he says the fights ain't bad, but they're still glorified tune-ups. Okay. It does look like, if we're looking at odds, that Plant is a huge favorite, -1,000, so 10-1 favorite. Some people would call that a tune-up. Run. What do you think about this fight?
I'm surprised Anthony Dirrell's still fighting. I mean, I liked his story back when, because I think he had leukemia way back, and then he made his comeback, and then I thought he was. I mean, I honestly thought he was done when Badou Jack took his title, and that was a long time ago, and that was probably Badou Jack's best performance. But I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't. I'll just be straight up honest. Like I've never thought that much about Caleb Plant, anyways. So it's just an odd thing that Caleb Plant is fighting now. He's fighting the guy that beat Anvil Yildirim before Canelo even fought Anvil Yildirim. So I'm just sort of confused with the fight. I think those odds are super wide. I think I favor Plant, but I think it's funny. Those are pretty wide odds. I wouldn't be against putting money down on Dirrell with those odds just for fun, because I don't really think Dirrell and Plant are that different classes of fighter. I think Dirrell's just old now.
Oh man, I mean, yeah, dude. Dirrell, I feel like he's been around forever, man. I mean, dude was in the Super 6, right? I mean, dude's been around for a long time.
His brother was in the Super 6. That's Andre Dirrell.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dirrell, I mean, then it shows what I know, right? Well, I like the family. They're a fighting family.
Yeah.
Hey, Nando here says that they ought to put Big Uncle Lorenzo Lawson on the undercard.
put him and the one that was a Shields uncle too on the card too.
There you go. Okay, then I might buy it, but otherwise, you know what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I have seen this Dirrell then twice. Okay, I've seen him twice in his last 2 fights. Yeah, dude, I expect Caleb Plant to work his way towards a decision win. I want to say this, dude. Caleb Plant, although I agree with Run, I never really thought he was special or anything like that. I think he's too jab dominant, too left hand dominant. Doesn't really use his right too much. Dwyer put me under the fact that there might be an open question of whether he can even use that right hand. So he's kind of like a one-handed fighter, and I don't know if that's just because of an injury. Although, there are a lot of one-handed fighters, when you look back in history, when we're doing fights of the year, I got to look more into it, but I think Joe Louis might be a little bit of a one-handed fighter. You know what I mean? With the jab. But, I think that I think Caleb Plant can move around pretty good. Also, I really like his hunger. He doesn't have to be fighting anymore. He made his $10 million against Canelo. He got knocked out, but he says he wants to fight his way towards another title shot, hopefully against Canelo. And I respect that about him. Even when he was going up against Canelo, he was talking that shit, you know. He kind of walked up on Canelo and he got left leaking. But I still thought it was funny, man. And he was talking shit to the crowd, be like, oh, it's easy for y'all to talk shit, you know, in those seats while I'm over here. Lista por los chingazos, you know, like I kind of, I thought he was entertaining, and I kind of got a kick out of the way he would defend himself. And when he would even show that little photo of, he's like, see, I did slap Canelo, right? He's like, you know, I got him, you know. So like, I don't know, I like the way he sticks up for himself, you know, and I like his hunger. So I'm kind of becoming a fan of his, just out of like amusement, you know. Like I don't think he's gonna go all that far. I would like to see him in a big fight though. After this, I'd like to see him in a fight against the Benavidez, or just, I don't know, some kind of up and comer like Morel, you know, or Berlanga. Like I want to see these guys start to mix it up, and I think Plant could be a really good test for somebody who wants to get that Canelo fight next. Like all these fighters just need to fight each other, and I think Plant could be a nice key if he's going to stay at 168. Callum Smith, he moved up to 175. We don't really know about Billy Joe Saunders, you know, but there are some fights to be made at 168 that could cause interest in that winner fighting Canelo, and I think Caleb Plant could be a big part of that. So I'd like to see it happen. You know, I do think that the reason he and Benavidez have not fought is probably because of Plant. I think Benavidez would beat Plant, but that remains to be seen. I think it would be a very high quality win for whoever beats Plant next. Anybody got any final thoughts on that before we move on to the next one?
One thing I want to say is it's going to be interesting to see how Plant does if he makes any actual adjustments with his new trainer, because he left his longtime trainer, I don't know, Justin Gamber, and he fought, or he's with that Breadman now, so it's going to be interesting to see if there are any changes with that, and it is going to be see if he actually can use the right hand, because even his like left hand, he throws sort of like, he has like a little touch jab, but he doesn't really like even have a left hook, because his left hook, it's like he doesn't really like turn it over. It's sort of like is like a sort of crook in his elbow. So it's going to be interesting to see what he actually has in his arsenal left. But I think it's good that it's cool to hear like a fighter vocalize that he wants another title shot against Canelo and sort of like shoot for the top. But like, I'm just not that impressed with Plant. So I'll just leave it at that. I just don't know how it's cool that he wants to work back for it, but it's like this will be the first time he actually like worked for it to get it. So the first one was just he was in the right place at the right time. So which is nothing wrong with that. That's good because he put himself in the position. But I think he needs to fight Benavidez. Like they could sell the fight with the whole scuffle they had in the gym in Vegas. Or fight someone, but I think Benavidez, that's the fight to happen. Because if Benavidez's team is so staunch that they believe that the Canelo fight won't happen, which I mean, who knows if it will happen or not, then just have him and Caleb Plant fight, and then that gives you more ammunition to push for the Canelo fight. It's like that's one thing I don't know if the boxers nowadays, they really care. It's like you care about the O, but wouldn't you rather, even if you take a loss, that the reward of making the bigger purse is going to be bigger? Like say you make 10 million against Canelo, that's bigger than like your 1-2 million you might be fighting. You have to take 5 fights to get that, opposed to take the risk, win the fight, then you'll make 12 off the end. I don't think they understand that, or maybe Al Heyman that has that much control over their careers, which I don't really think he does, because Danny Jacobs was with Al Heyman and left out. He was with Al Heyman when he first went to HBO, then ended up leaving. So I think these guys are just comfortable. I don't think that he really has that much control over some of the guys.
You know, I find myself thinking that too. Like, I don't think he's necessarily in a rush to make the fights, right? Because maybe he can't pay them. But you're right. It seems to me like if, you know, people just want to fight tune-ups, like Heyman's okay with that, right? And there's nobody else for us to yell at. Like, you know, we know Al Heyman, PBC, like we want to see the fights, but I mean, it's just a wall, right? I mean, nobody really talks back to us, so we just have to accept the fights that we get. Caleb Plant, we'll see what happens, man. But I mean, that's a great observation. I didn't realize that he'd switched trainers. I mean, but that might show that he is looking to keep going, right? And see what kind of changes he can make. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was interesting though, because he's been with that trainer, Justin Gamber, I think his whole career, or at least like on ES News, they have videos back when his daughter was still alive. So, you know, it's a little while ago, and that trainer was with him still back then when he was on the come up. So it's going to be interesting to see if he does make changes, because Breadman's a good trainer. Obviously, the boxer has to get it done in the ring, and Julian Williams did to an extent, but then ran into just some unfortunate way he came up short against certain boxers. But he's a solid trainer, and I'd like to see because I would want to see Caleb Plant make some changes, but I just don't know, like physically, like you said, does he have the arsenal still there? Does he have the, or is it just going to be like solely left hands and little hooks here and there? But I'd like to see him go to the body and utilize some things.
Dude, okay, so Dwyer said that Plant has a nuclear left hook. You would disagree with that?
No, yeah, I would. Yes, I would 100% disagree with that. I don't know if that's nuclear, and well, that's also when Dwyer calling like Vitaly Klitschko and Vladimir Klitschko the best athletes he ever seen enter the boxing ring. So I think Dwyer sometimes over exaggerates, but he does have the best line that I think is the most applicable to just sports in general with knockouts cause amnesia. So it's that's probably one of the best ones I've ever heard.
They sure do, you know, and I feel that way about the way people view Crawford, but that's a whole nother thing that we're going to talk about down the line, you know.
One last thing, because I don't think this is on the topics, but
go ahead, man.
This past weekend at the Fundura fight, I don't know if you all saw, but Virgil Ortiz was around Sam Watson quite a bit. So I wonder if there's going to be some, because I know Golden Boy's sort of up in the air with all their fighters right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if there's some things going on in the back, whether it's going to be like an advisory deal or some sort of thing going on with Virgil Ortiz right now. If Golden Boy is going to be out by the end of the year or sort of what they're doing, because Golden Boy did release Joshua Franco, and they are releasing some fighters. And then there's an ES News video where Robert Garcia, who's getting interviewed by Elliot at his gym, just on like the ring apron, and he was saying like, he was sort of joking, but he was like, "Oh, is Golden Boy even in business anymore? I don't know. They don't really have any guys anymore." So for a trainer like that to say that had so many guys at one point signed to Golden Boy and work closely with them, it's an interesting thing to hear. So I wonder if Virgil Ortiz might be that hopefully that Boots fight, if it does happen, is closer than we think.
Just man, that's a great observation. You know, I did see that video, and yeah, you could see Sam Watson, you know, being very charming, being like, "Oh, Virgil Ortiz, the champ's here, the champ's here." I'm like, well, he's no champ, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with being like flattering, you know. And Sam Watson seems to be a nice guy, and there's nothing wrong with flattering a high-profile fighter from another promotional company. But that's an interesting theory. I mean, it could play into the another factor into that could be the fact that it looks like Ryan Garcia versus Tank might be made. It looks like they're really close at this point. And if they are really close, like maybe they could be doing business together. I mean, could PBC buy out Golden Boy? I mean, that's a whole nother thing.
Could you imagine, very curious about. It would never happen, but could you imagine Ryan Garcia versus Tank and then co-main Virgil Boots?
I would possibly go to see that fight.
Oh, for sure.
Both those fights. I'd be very interested in something like that. And that could be one that might have some value, right? Where it's not like super fucking expensive, you know? Like you put that fight, like, shit, put it in Carson. I mean, put it in Vegas. Yeah, dude. Like that would be some hot fights.
Why not Phoenix? Why not Phoenix?
Hey, bro, you know what? I think Arizona in general is a nice hotbed. It's got like a good fan base in general. Like, from like Valdez to, I think you guys had Burchelt before that in Tucson, and then like I've seen Benavidez.
Yeah.
Now you guys are getting the Estrada fight, right? I mean, you know, I think and hell, a lot of people came out for Chavez versus Jacobs, and they were like Mexico before Chavez Jr. quit, right? So I really respect the Mexican fan base in general in Arizona. I think it's very strong. I think it's a strong boxing state that I think that promotional companies are starting to pick up on.
Yeah, and UFC too. UFC starting to do some events out here, so it's showing something. They see something here and there, at least in Phoenix. So, I mean, me and my brother, we're talking about going to that Estrada trilogy, and I mean the co-main event is good too. I think it's the rematch Arroyo and the kid that fought Chocolatito. What the hell is it? Gonzalez? No. I can't remember his name, but he's the kid that fought Chocolatito. He was a fill-in, and God, I can't even think of his name. But that's the co-main event. It was actually, it was a rematch. Like the first round, like both guys knocked each other down. So like the co-main event and the main event, you know how it is. Those things. Oh, Martinez, yeah, that's right, Martinez. Thank you.
Oh, he's fighting Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Arroyo's fighting Martinez. It's a rematch.
I like Martinez, although I was surprised at how badly he lost against Chocolatito. I picked Martinez, but maybe it's just I should have known better. A lot of people were picking the other way, but I don't know, man. I thought he was a bad little dude, but yet Nato came in here to back you up on this. It was indeed Martinez, and he says that PBC has got a bigger budget and more dates than PBC right now. Oh, Golden Boy has more dates and a bigger budget than PBC right now. El Rey That's right, man. Well, we're gonna go to our final prediction. I'm just gonna check on Nopal. Just if you just come in, Nopal fell asleep because he works overnights. I want to see if he's here with us. Nopal, estás aquí?
Oh man, you guys, bro, I fell asleep for reals, man. Sorry about that, man. I feel so fucked up right now, man.
No, it's okay, bro. I only called on you like 6 different times.
You did?
Nah, like maybe like 3 times. But it's not lost on me. Like I said, I appreciate that you guys work overnights and then come talk boxing. I thought once we started talking about the female fighters, you kind of just lost interest and fell asleep. You know what I mean?
Somehow I fell asleep,
Yeah.
man.
All right, Nopal. Now that you're up, real quick before we get to our finale, I want to know what you think about Haney versus Cambosis. Who do you have there?
Of course, Haney. I think Gambosa's got absolutely no chance. Yeah.
All right. Hey, fair enough. And that's what I figured anyways. Tell me, what do you think about Plant versus Dirrell?
I don't know, man. Why is even Plant fighting this dude? Like, yeah, like, he's making it seem like this is an exciting fight. But, I mean, I'm going to watch it, but it's like whatever. Of course, Caleb's going to win. Dirrell's probably seen his better days, since the Super 6.
These are huge odds.
I caught that joke. Somebody said he was in the Super 6.
That was me. I know what to tell you, man. Like
that was funny though, bro. That was funny, man.
Busted, it is what it is, A good thing I wasn't going on about it. I'm like, oh, and I didn't like the way Anthony Dirrell, faked an injury when he fought Arthur Abraham. Like that would have made me look like a fool. Saying some stupid shit. All right, and real quick too. Okay, I want to know what you think about Fundura. How far do you think he can go? What do you think of his style? Real quick, and then we're gonna move on to our finale prediction.
I was worried for him the other day. I was thinking he was gonna get caught by some kind of body shot. He's got a disadvantage. That's why you see guys like this. When they're really tall, they pick up that style where they're grabbing fools, they're tossing them, they're doing all this dirty stuff. Like Tyson Fury. You see that he fights a particular way because he's at a disadvantage when the other guys are shorter than him and they get on the inside and they go to the body and stuff. This is why they always clinch, and he's going to have to figure something out because, the guy he fought, although, his record's okay, I guess he only had 1 loss. I mean, he shouldn't have been doing that to him, he shouldn't have, he should have gotten him out. Of course, he says that, he planned to box him. He wasn't really looking to scrap, really. He said that's what he wanted to do, and but I don't know, bro. He's not looking as good as he did versus Lubin, so I am a little worried about it. And who knows, man? Gotta see more of it. I'm not sure how far he can go.
So you think he might get sparked?
It's possible, man. If he fights one of these other guys, it's a little harder. It's possible.
Well, thank you very much. Well, y'all have Nopal Boxeano's opinion now he's woken up, you know what I mean? And talking about people that go to sleep, some people think that Helenius is about to go to sleep. I want to know what you guys think about this. Wilder is back, former heavyweight champion, came off a trilogy against Fury in which he got knocked out, but this is a comeback fight on pay-per-view against Helenius. Some people think this is a bit of a mismatch. I will say this. The odds aren't as wide as they are for this fight versus Plant versus Dirrell. These odds are a little bit closer. Wilder's an 8-1 favorite. Helenius is a 5-1 underdog. So I want to know what you guys think about this fight. George, what do you think about Wilder making this comeback? Is Helenius a worthy opponent? Is he a worthy opponent for a pay-per-view fight?
It's PBC, so it's got to be pay-per-view. So I'm excited to see what Wilder. I mean, I'm not a big fan or a big hater of Wilder. Like, I enjoy his highlights. He makes those fights exciting, especially in fights where he is getting outworked or he's losing. I mean, it takes just one punch to change the whole outcome of the fight. I mean, in the third fight, I think maybe like the second knockdown against Fury, like Fury, he looked exhausted. I was like, shit, if Wilder had another minute and a half and he can drop Fury, like he could possibly finish Fury. And that's just Wilder. He's got that equalizer. Literally, probably one of the hardest punchers, man, of the last maybe 20 years, maybe even at that heavyweight division. So um, I'm excited. Like I said, he's a highlight. He's a walking highlight. I enjoy his knockouts because I mean it's boxing. Even though I love the skill, I love to see the knockouts just as much as the skill in boxing. And skill he does lack, but he definitely has the power. So I do respect that. It's not a pay-per-view. Shouldn't be a pay-per-view, but we all know why. It's a PBC thing. And they figure since it's Wilder's name, why not throw a pay-per-view on it? Helenius isn't that bad of an opponent. I wouldn't go and say it's a complete mixed match or mismatch because Helenius, he does pack a punch too. You know, he was like odds. I think they were against him when he fought Kanaki the first time he beat Kanaki. Actually, twice he beat him, and he was doing okay until he landed some power shots. And we've seen Wilder in the past get rocked, you know, early on, even midway through the fight. And so he does have a puncher's chance in this. I could see Helenius maybe using some tactics as far as on the inside, just like Fury. I'm not saying he's going to box good from the outside like Fury did, but I think if he can get past maybe 3-4 rounds, it'll be an interesting fight. And we also want to see exactly the mindset of Wilder. I know he goes and yells in front of the camera and on the mic, and he's, you know, his mentality is everything to him, and you know, got to give it to him. He's got heart, but when you lose like that 2 times in a row, stopped twice. He went to hell and back against Fury in those 2 fights. Showed grit, showed toughness, showed that he can come back and possibly change the outcome of that fight. You know, we just want to see where he's at, and this is a good comeback fight, especially from the 2 losses that he had against Fury. So I'm not gonna go ahead and completely knock this fight. The only thing I'm gonna knock is that it's a pay-per-view. So if this fight goes the way I think it's gonna go, I could see Fury knocking him out within like 3-4 rounds.
Wilder.
Yeah, did I say Wilder? Yeah, Wilder within 3-4 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's my prediction. But if this fight goes past 3-4 rounds, like Helenius can make this ugly.
Well, that's interesting stuff. So just so everybody knows, Helenius is 6'6.5", one of the taller guys that Wilder's faced in a while. And I gotta say this, you know, Wilder, you know, we haven't really seen him up against so many super tall guys. Run, I want to know what you think about this fight, man. Like I said, these odds are a little closer than they are when you look at the odds for Plant versus Dirrell. Do you think these odds are appropriate? How do you think of Helenius as a B-side in a fight like this? And how do you see this fight playing out?
I agree with most of what George said. That I think Wilder's going to knock him out within 6. I'm going to be interested to see though how Wilder looks when what he employs. Will he try to box? Because I think that was a good strategy against Fury in the last fight, but I think he was like exerting too much energy doing it. Like he was just like throwing that jab like extremely hard with the body and like sort of just a lot of unnecessary movement. But I think eventually he'll get back to what he does best, which is knocking guys out, and I think we'll put him down right hand. And I think we'll be over by then. As for Helenius, I mean, those are two great victories against Kaunaki. Did Kaunaki get some? I mean, heavyweights up until the last like 3-4 years since like Wilder and Fury started fighting, and then Ruiz and Joshua started fighting. It was pretty top heavy. Still is top heavy, but I think Kaunaki was getting a little more hype than deserved. But it was a good fight for both of them. It was a good comeback fight for Helenius, just to rejuvenate his career, and that's what's done. And I don't know. I mean, anything could happen, and it's another thing we're going to see how Wilder's chin is, because he's always been a bit chinny. Granted, has he survived the fights? Yes, but it doesn't mean he's been affected by weight. Like he was hurt badly by when he fought Molina, and when he was having those fights in I think the fight was in Alabama, when he was having those sort of homecoming fights after he beat Stavern the first time, and he had that other fight against the
Ortiz.
Ortiz, yes, I was thinking of the Eastern European fighter he fought in that sort of homecoming tour as well, but also against Ortiz, like so. And granted, it's the heavyweights, but those guys aren't at the same level in class as even Kaunaki or not Kaunaki, Helenius. So it's going to be interesting. We'll see how Wilder reacts, but I think eventually he's just going to go back to what he does best. And he's just going to throw the bomb. So we'll see. But I'm definitely not paying for it. I might not even watch it live. It's sad to hear me say that, but I might probably watch in the Haney fight and then the women's fights, and then catch this one on if someone uploads it to YouTube, or I think it'll be a highlight reel. So maybe just catch the highlights on YouTube.
So you still think Wilder still has the right hand bomb equalizer?
Yeah, I don't think that will leave him. What I think will leave him is the ability when he does meet that next match that will test it. We'll see if this one tests it, but his ability to get to the point where he has to only be perfect for those 2 seconds or whatever he says. So will he be able to endure through that and get there? So I don't know, because I don't know. I mean, like, Fury's not a big puncher, and he's obviously went to war with Fury, and that's probably those are almost the worst type of fights you get, is where you go to war with the boxers, and then you're just taking like a bunch of like, out of like a scale of 1 to 10, you're taking a bunch of like 6s and 7s, and you endure it, and then at the end Wilder was just completely exhausted. So we'll see how much those took out of him, because those were 3 brutal fights. So we'll see.
Right. Some fighters change, after one fight, right? So he's had 2 brutal knockouts. We will see. Run PMC, I want to thank you so much for joining us, man. It was great talking with you, brother.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right, everybody. That was Run PMC. The hired gun of Al Chile was here to talk some boxing with us. And then JC here says that the fix is in. That's a whole nother theory, right? There's this idea that it could be a fix, I mean, this wouldn't be the first time I thought a Wilder fight was fixed. I'll say that much. Nopal, what do you think about this fight, man? I mean, are you excited to see Wilder back in general? Is Helenius a worthy opponent in your mind? And what is your prediction?
I don't even know who this dude is, bro. The only thing I know is that I feel like calling him Hellboy for some reason. But dude, I'm just happy to see Wilder back, bro. I'm very excited to see how quick he gets his dude out. And you guys are making it seem like it's going to be competitive, so we'll see. Hopefully the dude does last the 6 rounds or whatever, but I'm happy to see him back. As far as it being pay-per-view, that doesn't really matter to me, because guess what? I watch all the pay-per-views, so I'm happy to see Wilder back. And, got the hookup on the pay-per-views, man, so it's all good.
I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at too. Like, I'm going to watch this fight, how I'm going to watch it. And I'm also excited that Deontay Wilder's back. I've always been a big fan of his. I think that the heavyweight division is more interesting with him in it. I think that he will beat this guy that Nopal's never heard of. Well, I'll tell you this, Nopal, just so you know, the guy lost to Gerald Washington by KO.
He lost to that guy?
Yeah, that's what I thought. When I didn't see that fight, but the fact that this guy got knocked out by Gerald Washington. Did you see that fight, Georgie?
No, I did not. Now I'm gonna have to look at it.
Yeah, he got knocked out in the 8th round. I don't know if it was a TKO or what, but he got knocked out in 2019 by Gerald Washington, who's also a very tall fighter, right? If I remember right. And then he also lost to Dillian White in 2017 by unanimous decision. I'm like, okay, well, if this guy could get outboxed by Dillian White, outmuscled, and lose to Gerald Washington, like, yeah, this guy might be a KO waiting to happen. I'm sure the PBC made this fight
2 or 3 rounds, huh?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this, dude.
There.
Yeah, they picked this dude for a reason. A decent fighter, right? That Deontay Wilder can fight, get his confidence back up. I also predict, even though I've only seen Helenius fight once, I think. Although some people think that Helenius, has a puncher's chance. His KO ratio is not that bad.
He don't even got a survivor's chance, bro.
You're probably right. So, we'll see that highlight reel. I do like seeing Wilder knock somebody out. And I want to see what Deontay Wilder will do next. Dude, he's calling out everybody, man. Like, I've heard him talk about how he'd like an Usyk fight. I've heard him talk about how he'd like another Fury fight, if you could believe it. I've heard him say that him versus Anthony Joshua is still the biggest fight in boxing. Do you guys have any thoughts on all that?
I mean, yeah, that I do agree. I mean, stay away from Fury. Please stay away from Fury. Yeah, Anthony Joshua, I even said, I mean, me and Julian always talk about this. We're like, even though both these guys are on the losing end of their last couple fights in their career, like, this fight still could be made. Like, it was the fight to be made a couple years ago, and then Joshua lost to Ruiz. And then if you enter Fury against Wilder, then you get a trilogy. and then they lose again. So I mean, it's still interesting fight because again, any given moment, Wilder, the power is the last thing to go away. So Joshua can easily outbox him from the outside, play it safe, and now we'll have to worry about if Wilder has the skill, but all he's got to worry about is just that right hand. If he stays away from those 2 second window that Wilder needs, he can easily outbox him, or get caught. And we've seen Joshua has been a little chinny too. So
That's
I would
right.
like to see it.
I could dig it. I'm with you, man. Like, I think he needs to stay away from Fury. Like, right now, he just is not in line to get that fight next. Even if he beats Helenius in savage fashion, like, to me, like, their trilogy was a bit too one-sided. Although I think Nopal and myself, actually, Nopal had Wilder winning that first fight against Fury.
Yeah, I did.
But we did declare it as not a robbery. Everybody makes it seem like that fight was like super one-sided. But since then, it just seems like Fury knows how to beat Wilder, how to crash the pocket, do some inside fighting, make it rough, and ultimately finish him. I don't see a different outcome.
Mm-mm.
Wilder's already landed flush on Fury in multiple fights, multiple times, right? So, I mean, I don't see any reason to think that he could get it done again. If that fight presents itself, I'd like to see it happen in London, but I don't want to see it happen next. That's for sure. Nopal, what do you think about this?
About him versus Fury again?
And wanting Joshua and wanting Usyk. Basically wanting just all the big fights at heavyweight after this.
It's probably one of them cases where they're not really thinking, they're just saying they want to beat everybody, I guess, because their fight's coming up. His fight's coming up versus Helenius. They're catching him. I don't even know if these guys cut weight, but, why would he? Come on, bro. He's not going to be able to beat Fury unless he wants it for the money. He'll probably get retired this time. As far as Usyk, I think that'd be kind of a hard fight for him to win too, Usyk's pretty skilled, but then again, he could catch. I mean, he's got a puncher's chance with all them guys except Fury, like you said. He can't knock out Fury. That dude's taking his best punches. So, that's crazy that he wants all that. I mean, why not just sit back and fight the Heleniuses and all these guys that he's fighting? Just take it easy,
Ruiz too. He could fight Ruiz.
Yeah.
Oh
I mean, that'd be a good fight.
That would be a good fight. I think it would put an end to this question of whether Ruiz is a top 5 heavyweight. Like, it irritates me when some people kind of act like he's right up there. It's just my opinion. I think that it's just kind of by default. But that's just me, and it's like I think that Wilder facing Ruiz would put that to bed. I think that Ruiz is kind of on the way out. I don't think he's going to have another shot at glory, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're not alone on that. You're not alone
really?
on that. Yeah, I believe that too.
Yeah, it was a flash in the pan. He got lucky against Joshua, and so, like, yeah, dude, I would love to see that fight. Nando here says that PBC guys always talking about that big fight after their tune-up. What happened to Danny Garcia? Got the bag and disappeared.
That's true.
Yeah, that's very true.
But Nando,
he started crying in the ring, remember?
That's
yeah,
true.
he's got mental health now, huh?
Oh shit! Here we go.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel bad for Danny Garcia. All I could say about Danny Garcia is, like, I think it's a natural rite of passage as you grow into an adult to leave your household and start your own family or move out. Like, it's part of growing up. And I don't know, the fact
you
that
don't think it's his sister stressing him out with
his
those,
two sisters going
weird videos and shit?
He's the one paying for all that shit, from what I can tell.
He's the one pimping them out, or what?
I think so, bro. Like, I think there's love in that family, but I think there's, I don't know, a lot of weird.
No
there could be love in the family, but like weird shit going on in the family where it's like, they got their
Julian
mental
don't want to
issues.
talk shit about his primo Danny Garcia, huh? Got the
He likes the Cyanjay twins. That's what it is. He's got a soft spot for them. I've been picking
he's
up on
over
that
there
for a little while
macking
now.
the Cyanjay twins. Them chicks, they only like black dudes though, huh? That's kind of
Sorry,
what I noticed,
George.
bro.
Sorry,
I don't
George.
think-
I'm just kidding.
I don't think
No
you got
comment.
a chance, George.
It's all right. No comment.
There's hope. There's hope.
Hey,
No hope.
they're gonna be desperate for attention as they get older. Because never mind, I'm gonna shut up.
We're digging our own hole.
Yeah, we are.
I know.
We're
I'm
over
gonna
there
shut
like,
up.
hey, trying to tell people we're not racist and shit. Now we're
No,
talking
we're not.
shit
Right?
like that.
Hey, everybody's got preferences. That's like saying, oh, the Kardashians only go. I mean, that's not like race. It's just, kind of what you see. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
nah,
Yeah.
like
they
Ryan Garcia,
definitely.
he likes
Yeah.
to impregnate Latinas, right? That's generally where he sticks. We just all have our preferences. That's
Yeah,
all. That's
yeah.
all. Don't
Yeah,
mean nothing.
I
It's
just
an
come. I
observation.
just say I just come up a little bit short. I mean, not a little bit, a lot short financial. So we'll just say that.
Oh, money wise, yeah.
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 I don't know how we started talking about this, but dude,
Danny Garcia.
oh yeah, that's
Hey,
right. Danny
bro, if you
Garcia.
got a music studio, you can have that probably. You know what I mean? Because
Right. All I can
know.
say about Wilder is like he also might. Some people think he has mental health issues, but you know what? I think he's a guy who is more inclined to be able to get some fights that he wants. Like I feel like he can speak for himself a bit more than other PBC fighters. And I think it's because he can generate money and he can take or leave boxing at this point. And I think the PBC knows that, right? Like he could just retire.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he has like these handlers that are gonna make him do anything, right? He can speak for himself. Also, I think he's probably one of the more charismatic fighters in boxing. Like he could do interviews very well. I like Deontay Wilder. I've always liked him. It was a pleasure to see him live. He makes the heavyweight division more interesting in general. So I'm gonna keep rooting for him.
Yeah,
And
I don't.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't think he got no mental health issues. I like the shit he says, man. It's funny as hell. You know what I mean?
Me too. And there's nothing wrong with a boxer having blind self-belief. All the greats do, pretty much.
Yeah.
All right. So does anybody have any final thoughts before we close this one out?
None.
Well, that's it, man. Before we make it worse, huh?
I know, right?
Let's get out. Let's bow out of this gracefully now.
All right.
Before we
Well-
talk a lot more shit on, let's get out of here, guys.
All right. Yes, this is the Chile Crew, and we love everybody here. Everybody, have a great one. Peace.
Peace.